Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic. And it's hard to believe it's August already and we're heading into the end of summer.
Yeah, fortunately for me, I'm heading to the beach this weekend for a week, so that's a good place to be heading in August. So,
Yes, it is.
but
And
so
of course, the dog days of summer as things heat up. It's a great time to sort of take it easy, scale back, and think about what you're doing automatically and what habits you've got going. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how you can build positive habits and break negative ones.
yeah, now is a really good time to start playing that because a lot of people are, they're in coast mode during the summer, having a good time or whatever. But September is only a month away now, and that's kind of like back to school, back to business, and that kind of thing. So I think timing wise, this is a perfect thing to talk about.
Yeah, and it's so important because so much of what we do by habit, both good and bad. And there's a fantastic book that I read earlier this year called Atomic Habits. And one of the things that they talk about is building habits on top of existing habits. And it makes it that much easier to add good habits into your life. And something that they talk about with building habits is, if you've got yourself a morning routine, and we've talked a lot about morning routines, use that to build on a new habit. So let's say, for example, you've got a morning routine, you get up, you drink a glass of water, you stretch. Well, that's a great place to add a little exercise if you're not already doing it. And one of the other things they talk about is the 2-minute rule. Habits take time to build. So don't just jump in. Take 2 minutes. If you can do something for 2 minutes one day, that's the start of a habit. And then just build on it. Don't, push yourself to go, oh, I've got to work out for 2 hours every day. I've got to read for an hour and a half every day. It's like when you put that kind of pressure on yourself, you're almost asking for the habit to fall apart.
Yeah, one of the best things you can do is start small, chunk things down. It's really, really important to do that. I know you've heard me talk about Lao Tzu, the philosopher from way, way, way back when, whose three things to learn in life is number one is simplicity. In other words, don't try and do everything at once, one thing at a time. Patience, be patient with yourself as things are going on. You know that you're going to mess up from time to time, but just understand that. And then the compassion side of things. Take it easy on yourself. Don't take it so hard. Don't go looking in the mirror and looking at all the negatives all the time. Obviously, if you want to develop good habits, as you said, what you need to do is you need to start with the good ones that you already have, because routine wise, it's the same thing. So you talked about doing a morning routine and expanding it from a little bit to a little bit more. And that's a great way to do it. And the bottom line is when you're trying to start a new habit, look at the steps that you're doing, just step by step. And what's really, really important, uh, I have these tips as I always get to prepare for this, but the last one is reward yourself for making progress at set time intervals. So pat yourself on the back if you've done it for a couple of days. I mean, obviously, it's general knowledge or supposed theory that it takes 21 days to build a new habit. But some are going to take longer, some might take shorter. But it's really, really important to just celebrate what you're doing instead of thinking about, I didn't do.
And that's so true. So many of us go, oh, I didn't do it today. Well, and then there's actually uh, a parody satire website called the Babylon Bee, and they post fake headlines all the time. And the other day they posted a headline: uh, "Men on diet has cheat day for 23 days." And we've all done that. And it's like, yeah, avoiding the diet turns into the habit. Well, no, just take it one day at a time. It's like you can't go, oh, well, I didn't do it yesterday, so what's the point of doing it today? That way you'll never get started. You have to do it step by step, taking it easy, small steps. And yes, as you said, reward yourself along the way.
Yep, and understand you're going to mess up from time to time. So these 7 steps that I have for breaking a bad habit. Step number 1 is to set a goal, what habit you want to break. Number 2, this is really important. Decide on a replacement behavior. If you're going to get rid of a habit, find another one that you're going to do. Number 3, and
Yeah.
this one's huge.
Well, hang on before you go on to number 3. Number 2 is big, because stopping a bad habit without replacing it, you end up focusing on the bad habit rather than the replacement. And the more you focus on the bad habit, the harder it is to break. And the perfect example is when somebody's trying to quit smoking. Most of the time, they're told to replace it with something, chew a piece of gum, nicotine patch for, in medical situations to replace the nicotine. There's always a replacement habit. And that is so important, because when you have a positive habit that you're replacing a negative habit with, that becomes your focus, and you think more about doing the replacement than doing the bad habit. And that helps break it that much, easier, but it also helps you build that replacement habit correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first step is to set the goal, and that's also step 1 in building a new habit. And basically, it's what you are defined to do that turns your negative into a positive. It's replacing that with something new. Number 3, really, really important. When you have a bad habit, there are some things that trigger you for that. Okay. It could be watching TV, it could be this and that, whatever. What is the reason for your bad habit, or what gets you into it on a day to day basis? If you can sit down and do a little bit of a self analysis to identify, where the behavior happens, what time of day, how you feel when it happens, are there other people involved, and so on and so forth. Those are ways to identify things that you can replace with something new to help quell the habit continuing on. So,
Absolutely. And those triggers are just as important when creating a new habit. And as we said, if you're trying to replace a habit, you can use that same trigger. For example, if, you sit down to watch something on TV, and it triggers you to unconsciously start snacking. Well, move the snack somewhere else so that when you go to that place, they're not automatically there. But try to use that trigger. Put a set of dumbbells next to the TV so that instead of reaching for a snack, you're getting some exercise. And that's just an example, but use those triggers. They're very important.
yeah, I mean, if you're staying up too late at night and only sleeping a few hours at night, why are you staying up till midnight every night? You might see that you're watching TV until midnight every night. One of the recommendations here is, why not try turning off the TV and your phone at 9 o'clock every night and see what happens when you do that? That automatically is going to make you do something else, or want to go to bed early, or do something to replace it, like read something that will relax you and make you more tired to go to bed. So, I mean, these are different things that you can, once you find out why you're doing it or when you're doing it, you can think of things to replace that. So,
Absolutely. And, if you need a little extra help to break things, there are tools and gadgets that you can use. For example, if you're staying up till midnight watching TV, you can actually, some smart TVs have this built in. Otherwise, you can actually buy these plugs that you plug the TV in, you plug that into the wall, and it allows you to set a timer so that at 9 o'clock, whether you're watching or not, the TV goes off. And you can use these things to go, oh, okay, that's it. It's time to, stop watching TV. Let's move on to do something else. Let's read, go to sleep earlier, work, whatever it is that you want to do. Same thing if you're getting caught up at work. You can set timers on your computer to go, okay, it's time to step away from the computer, time to do something else.
Yeah. The next one, it leads perfectly right into this because the next one says post reminders to yourselves. This could be things stuck on your refrigerator and this or that or whatever. But what you are talking about is implement reminders to stop yourself
Yes, it's
far as the television and this and that, whatever. But if you have your reminders, the bottom line is if you get up first thing in the morning and you're not used to grabbing a glass of water and stretching and doing this and that, whatever, it's going to take a while for you to do that. Again, 21 days practicing the same thing, and you probably have a good habit going on. But if you forget and you have a reminder on your mirror, that's the best place to put it. The first thing you do when you get up in the morning is probably go to the bathroom and look in the mirror and brush your teeth and stuff like that. Have a couple reminders there. Have a couple reminders on the refrigerator as far as snacks and this and that goes. There are a lot of things to help you out because our brain holds a lot of data, but you can't access it all the way. And priority today might not be priority tomorrow. So the more visual you have, especially when you get to be my age, the better off you're going to be. So
yeah, and you can place things strategically for those reminders. If you know there's something you need to bring to work, put it in front of the front door so that when you're about to leave, there it is. You mentioned drinking water first thing in the morning. You can take an insulated bottle, fill it up the night before, have it right next to your alarm clock. The alarm clock goes off, you shut the alarm, there's the water. Make it easy on you. Put these things where you're going to see them immediately.
yeah, you can have your sneakers and your workout outfit right next to the bed. So if you want to take a walk or go downstairs and work out, you got to step over that to not do it.
Right.
So um, the next one is a really, really good one. Get help and support from someone. Get an accountability partner. Maybe you're both going to try and accomplish something. And obviously, you can help each other celebrate things. And it's a whole lot easier to celebrate somebody else than to look in the mirror and celebrate yourself. Some people have a hard time doing that, even though they know that it's coming from their heart rather than from their head. So obviously, getting help and support from someone else is a great way to break and start a new habit.
Absolutely. And not necessarily just help and support, depending on what your goal is, make it a challenge. Compete with somebody. That, gets the juices flowing. I've done that, not too long ago. My wife was trying to lose weight. I've already lost a lot of weight. She started doing the same things I was doing. We got involved in the chamber step challenge, which Chip was, also involved in. At just the competition got us moving.
Yeah, and you guys came in number one and number two, and Mindy won, not you,
Yes, my wife beat me. Yes.
which was really, really cool.
And not only did that make her very proud, made me very proud of her. So, the competition, doing it in a team, these are things that help you build those habits. And the fact of the matter is that chamber challenge has been over for a month, and I still find myself automatically doing things to get steps in
Yep.
because after 3 months it became a habit.
Yep. I mean, I've always liked walking too, and I did the challenge too. I didn't do as well as you did, but I did come in the top 10, which is not bad for 68. But I averaged well over 20,000 steps a day, and I'm making sure right now it's really not too hard to average at least 10. You know, it
Yeah,
probably takes, if you want to just do a walk, it'll take you an hour, but you're going to be doing all kinds of other stuff. So if you just get that in, it's just a great way to stay healthy. And again, once you start doing it, and keep it going. I did the same thing last year. I still did fine, but I found myself not walking every day after it stopped. And this year, I've made it a point to make sure that I continue to do that. So Um, yeah, I mean, I've talked about this book called The Complaint Free World a lot when I do my presentations. And what the book is all about, it's written by Pastor Will Bone out of Kansas City. And obviously, one of the bad habits that we have is complaining. And when I do my presentations, as far as positive mindset development, I talk about tools for developing it, maintaining an attitude of gratitude practice. And then number three is the throwouts. And this is one of them. And I always talk about this book because in the book, he says, what would happen if the world stopped complaining? Obviously, it would be great. But he talks about this 4-step challenge, which you can use for any bad habit to turn it into a good habit. And the 4 stages of this is, say you're going to take this 21-day challenge and you're not going to complain for 21 days, because that's what this is all about. It's a 21-day challenge. You have a purple wristband, and every time you complain, you have to switch wrists. And what you have to do is you have to keep that band on the same wrist for 21 days straight, not just 21 days randomly, but 21 days straight. So somebody could walk up to me and say, okay, Chip, I'm going to take the habit and I'm going to kick it. And they put the wristband on. And within 5 minutes, they've complained about somebody or they've gossiped their so on and so forth. And they started switching wrists and they had said, wow, this is unconscious incompetence. All right. Step 2, after switching that a couple times in the first 5 minutes, you are now consciously incompetent. You are conscious of the fact that you may have a bad habit of complaining. And once you do that, then you get a little bit down to business. And the one that I have the most fun talking about, this is where the 21-day challenge comes in, is not complaining for 21 days. If you can do that, you've gone from unconscious incompetence to conscious competence, which means that you now have a good habit going. And it's really, really tough to do that. And I say, this is where you're taking the challenge with people at work or with family. And you sit down for lunch one day and say, how's your morning going? And there's silence. Nobody wants to talk about anything that's going on. And by the way, thoughts don't count because you could never do it that way. It's just not going to happen. But if you are consciously working on that to bite your tongue, again, simplicity, patience, that's the patience part. And then the compassion, having compassion on yourself. That's so important. You've gone from unconscious incompetence to conscious competence by doing that. And then once you've done that for 21 days straight, where you haven't complained, you've gone from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, where you've turned the habit of complaining into the habit of biting your tongue and not complaining. And that's the way it works for all the different habits. So this is, if you put up the reminders as far as the exercise goes, as for this or for that or whatever, this really is a 4-step process to work, for everything. So I highly recommend getting the book. Again, it's called The Complaint Free World by Will Bone, because if you can conquer that one, you're going to be able to turn a whole lot of bad habits into good habits.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a fantastic technique for really getting rid of bad habits. And you can do it not just with complaining. The technique works with any bad habit. If you find yourself reaching for a snack, obviously you're not going to go 21 days without eating. But if you go 21 days without eating between meals, you can, move the bracelet from one arm to the other and, keep it on for 21 days. Same thing to quit smoking. You can it works for any bad habit. And that's really what we're talking about, is taking control of those habits.
Yeah,
And I love the term unconscious competence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, people, and this is since mankind started walking the earth, you look at all the different things that we read about, they're all over social media and so on and so forth. And that's because people always have been out of control, letting the outside world control them. And these days, where it's just so easy to do so, joining the crowd and just chiming right in with all negativity. And there's not enough of that stuff going on for positivity out there. And it would be great if there was just a Facebook or this or that, whatever, where only positive stuff was allowed. Because the bottom line is, and you folks out there know this, if you run into somebody who's doing something positive or talking something positive, that is more contagious than any negative virus out there. And you can really, really get the room going with good vibes in a hurry just by being positive, which basically, if you're positive as a habit, which you can turn that into that positive mindset, that's how it works. But if you're just analyze things for what they really, really are, you can put this to work in amazing ways. You're not going to change the world, but you could change every single moment, a reaction or interaction that you have with people. And when you walk in the room and you have that reputation for lighting up the room when walking in rather than when you walk out, that is going to change things a whole lot. And that, it makes a whole bunch of difference. And the easiest way, if you want to start a great habit, wake up every morning and the first thing, just go to the mirror and smile at yourself, because the coolest person in the world is smiling back. And make a habit of smiling all the time in all your interactions every day. We just talked about the walking challenge. Every time I'm walking down the street or anywhere, I don't care who's in the car, I can't even see them behind the windshield anyway, but I'm always waving to them. Whether they're waving back or not, sometimes I can't see. It really doesn't matter, because for that moment, they're not thinking negativity. They're thinking about that guy's waving at me. And that's the way that it works.
Absolutely. When you're replacing bad habits with good habits, you're spreading positivity. And there are a lot of benefits to this other than just getting rid of a bad habit. Because when you get rid of these bad habits, your whole well being improves, your health, your success, your outlook. There's an old saying, some people have stress and some people give stress. You don't want to be somebody who's giving stress. And when you spread that positivity, breaking those bad habits, replacing them with good ones, it starts happening automatically.
Yeah. And that's what it is too. I mean, a habit is not talking. A habit is just being. And that's being who you are and what you are. It has nothing to do with preaching, because if you start doing that, actually preaching is a bad habit. Period.
Absolutely. You're not here to convert people by your words. You want them to see how you're doing by example. Doesn't matter if anybody else picks up on it. You know what you're doing. It's going to make you feel good. That's going to make you more positive, and that's going to attract more positivity. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, it's all about influence. And influence is the most important thing. And Albert Schweitzer said in influence, your example is not the only thing, not the best, not the best thing, the most important thing, but it is the only thing. It's leading by example. So I kind of jarbled that, but yeah. In influence, example is not the main thing. It is the only thing. Look that up, post that, and that's what it's all about.
Right. And as we've said, you're not expected to be able to change a habit overnight. The example with the wristband, it takes 21 days to replace a habit. Give yourself the time. Don't put the pressure on yourself. Take it little by little. We've talked about creating processes. And what a habit really is an unconscious process. You're creating the process at the beginning of what you want to do. It becomes a habit when you no longer have to think about it. And that's what good habits do. They keep you doing good processes without even think about it. It's automatic. Bad habits work the same way, but those bring you down. So if you can replace those with good habits, you're going to benefit.
Yep. So go out there and set those goals, those things that you want to change, and come up with a plan to do that, and just work on it. So it's easier said than done, but that's the recipe.
It is easier said than done. And that's something also you need to remember. You need to have a goal for this. You're not simply breaking a bad habit for the sake of breaking a bad habit. That's not going to motivate you to do it. You have to have that goal, that reason. Again, I always use weight loss as an example because it's something everybody understands and can identify with. But why are you losing weight? Well, you're not losing weight just for the sake of losing weight. You want to be healthier. You want to, you don't want to die so soon. You want to have the strength to walk up a, flight of stairs. You want to be able to see your daughter's wedding. It's things like that. You have to see what that goal is, why you're doing it. There has to be something that motivates you. So find that motivation. And in many cases, I'll be honest with you, fear is a very good motivator. I lost almost 70 pounds. Now, I didn't expect to be able to lose that much weight. Didn't start out trying to lose that much weight. I was looking for 10 to 15. But the reason I started was because my doctor told me that there was a possibility I was pre-diabetic, and if I didn't start taking better care of myself, I would develop diabetes. Now, just the thought of having to give myself a shot every day went, nope, there's got to be an easier way. Let's start by losing the weight. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, like everything else, when we talk about personal development, you got to find your purpose, passion, and your why. So
yes.
you got to find that why for developing the new habit.
That's it. And that why is so important. And it has to be something that speaks to you. What somebody else's why is might not be motivating for you. You have to figure out what motivates you and use that to say, okay, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to accomplish. What am I doing that's holding me back? And then those are the habits you need to break. And if that goal is strong enough, if that motivation is strong enough, it makes changing the habit that much easier. So we are just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
Well, a lot of times what this podcast is just all about is making you aware of different things out there. Awareness starts with the awareness of the habit that you have that you want to change, but you also have to be aware that at any point in time, you can start on the road to changing it. Now, those are the tools that we gave you today. Again, the first step is defining your goal, taking a look at your triggers as far as why this thing is happening, set up a plan for what you're going to do, have those reminders all over the place, and most importantly, just do something every single day to make it happen and celebrate that one thing that you're doing. One more day of not doing the bad habit, and so on and so forth, instead of trying to conquer 25 things at once and getting down on yourself for not doing so. So one step at a time, and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. It is so important that you not get down on yourself. These things take time. And yes, it is easier to break a habit or create a new habit when you've got help, when you've got tools. So, Chip, remind our listeners about the book you mentioned.
Again, it's called A Complaint Free World by Will Bowen. I think if you go to acomplaintfreeworld.org, that's where it is, where you can order the book, and you can order those bracelets if you want to take the challenge with other people there. Again, I read this a long time ago, so I hope it's still there.
And I had mentioned the book Atomic Habits, and the full title of that is Atomic Habits, An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones. It's written by James Clear, and it is a #1 Amazon bestseller, so it's easy to find. I recommend it's on Audible if you prefer to listen to books. So I absolutely recommend getting this book, using its techniques to help you build those good habits and break the bad ones. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.